ho, 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 ho. Merry Creepsmas, and welcome back to the Cackling Jack Podcast Christmas Special. I'm Mike, and I'm here with my co-hosts in the Phantasmic Four, Sherry.
Hola.
Mackenzie.
Yo.
And Lindsay, who is at this very moment in the middle of some kind of Fimbulwinter or Hellwinter or Killstorm. Lindsay, are you still with us this Christmas?
Just barely. I will have everybody know out there in internet land, I fell today and it was awful. But I'm still alive. It was not in a crosswalk, that was a bonus, because getting hit by cars is bad. Especially right before your favorite holiday, which is Christmas for me. Krampusmas. So yeah, I'm over it.
One of us is already lying face down in the snow. Christmas is already trying to kill us, which is great because Christmas is a great time for misery and paranoia and darkness and murder. And so we've decided, especially this year, with the premiere of the movie Krampus, to make an evil Santa episode for this Christmas. A episode about Santa being a demon, being a monster, having monsters for friends, having monsters as enforcers, which has a lot to do with the actual Christmas lore, because even the story we tell to kids is that a strange man in red comes from the north in the middle of the night to judge them, and he is eternal. So he is the perfect subject for horror, but he used to be even better, of course, because of the Krampus, his old accomplice who used to follow him from house to house, whether in the guise of Santa Claus or St. Nicholas, and Krampus the demon would follow and actually punish children brutally right there on the spot. And this year we're going to start out by celebrating the tradition of Krampus and trying to bring it back. So I believe, Sherry, you are friends with the Krampus. I've heard that you might be growing some horns this year, so why don't you tell us all about him?
I will be glad to tell you all about the Krampus. Gather round, girls and boys, and let Auntie Sherry tell you a story about a wonderful Christmas legend called Krampus. I think I'm pronouncing it right. That's how Christoph Waltz pronounces it, and that's what I'm going to stick with. So, Mike already touched on this, but Krampus is specifically when a horrible demon comes on December 5th, in tradition, and drags ungrateful and wicked children to the underworld, or beats them. 6 to 1, half a dozen to another. Like all of the best traditions, Krampus comes from the pagan side of history, Austria, or the the Alps, usually that area. And he has turned into the demon counterpart of Saint Nick. Not our Santa, but Saint Nicholas, which is really kind of like a more austere version of our fat, jolly, Coca-Cola wielding elf. Mm-hmm. And he is really only one of many demonic versions of the counterparts for Saint Nick around the world. And an interesting fact about Krampus is he was originally commercialized in the 1890s, so think Victorians, with Krampus Christmas cards, and you can find these online. These are amazing. Cheerful depictions of a demon scaring kids, beating them, or straight up carrying them away in a bag. Mm-hmm. And there is a special tradition on December 5th called Krampusnacht, or Krampus Night, Night of Krampus, which has had like a resurgence in Europe as well as the States. And we are now in the 2000s, once again commercializing what is essentially a terrifying creature. And there is a drunken run of men through the streets of Amsterdam, I think it is. I forget what that's called exactly. It's something with the word Krampus in it, but a bunch of guys dress up like Krampus, the demon goat, with a cloak, and he's covered in hair, and he's got this tongue lolling out, and these awful goat horns. Poor goat. And they dress up as Krampus and they run through the streets completely plastered. That's the more adult version. Of course, we've now taken it and have transformed it so he punishes everybody. And in America, we've taken it on with our new film that came out this December called Krampus. And I saw that actually today. And I happened to really enjoy it, probably for reasons that it was not meant to be enjoyed. It was actually really dark and twisted, and it reminded us all of what Christmas is all about. And that is, don't F up and get your entire family ripped to shreds by demon toys.
Mm-hmm. Christmas is all about judgment. It's all about judgment and isolation and being afraid of what could come down the chimney because you know you're a bad person.
Yes. Yes.
And since we're on the internet, I think we'll have to post some of the great videos that exist of these Krampus parades, which to American audiences will hammer home the need to get this tradition started here. For anyone who's run into a SantaCon in the streets, a Krampus parade is like a SantaCon, but cool, and fun, and metal as hell, and interesting. So we need to make that happen, and the Cackling Jack Facebook group and the Cackling Jack blog will both prominently feature a couple good Krampus parade videos as soon as we're done recording this.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone actually had the pleasure of participating in a Krampus parade? Do we have any
I have not done a Krampus parade, but I have done SantaCon 2 different years, and there are always a few Krampi involved, and it's always just a joy to kind of, they help break all the red and green and the red and green and white and the beards and the hats, fuzzy hats all up, and just because Krampus is a little bit more obscure and not everybody knows about him, it's always nice to see, like, oh, these people they know a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you. Yeah, Lindsay, you're going to be our expert here because I got very lucky. I actually saw the new Krampus film from Michael Dougherty, the filmmaker behind the great Trick or Treat, our Halloween a couple of years ago. Seems to be on a winning streak and has brought his terror to Christmas, which is great. And I saw the film with some friends downtown here in Seattle, and we somehow timed it, that coming out of the film, we ran smack into a SantaCon we didn't know was happening and had poured out into the streets. And
did you feel like you were tripping at that point? Like, oh, we're live in the movie?
Especially because there was a circle of people chanting something. We couldn't make it out. Everyone was very drunk, very high, and Santa and sexy elves and Krampuses. Krampi? Sure. What's a flock of Krampus called? We need to decide.
I'm going to say Krampi.
Krampi? Okay. Krampi. And there was one of the Krampi, one very big, very imposing Krampus in a good costume, who seemed to be emceeing whatever was going on there. So we actually came out of the movie theater, walked a block, and ran smack into a crowd of Santas chanting and dancing around a giant Krampus.
That is creepy. That
was perfect. And it made me want to know more and Lindsay, I didn't realize you were a SantaConer. Can you explain to the rest of us what a SantaCon is and how that goes down?
So it's basically, everybody dresses up in some fashion like Santa, or just, if you want to be a slutty Santa, that's fine. You just wear your little red dress and your little hat and your hooker heels and you're good to go. And you basically, so it's a mass of people and you're basically bar hopping in mass. And you're all dressed as Santa, and you're all drunk, and if you're in Colorado, you're probably a little bit high as well. And you have a good time. It's you just you get crunk, as they say. And
okay, because I'd heard that was pretty much it, which is not a bad thing. But
that's pretty much
I was wondering what else went on.
No, there's not really much else.
Doesn't need to be anything else, to be honest.
It's and it started, as far as I know, this whole SantaCon idea was started in Denmark, actually, in the 70s, I think, there was a mass meeting of Santas in Copenhagen, and that's kind of where it all started. I don't know if drunkenness was part of it originally, but it probably was. And so that's where it all started, in ye old Denmark.
Okay. Well, I guess...
And where all the best traditions come from.
Absolutely. Agreed.
So SantaCon, and if you want to be really metal, Krampusnacht are the best ways to celebrate an unwholesome Christmas if you're American. So find one. But the tradition of Krampusnacht, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce it correctly, Sherry. You're very brave because it's going to sound terrible. It was always interesting because it seems that his function has kind of been folded into the Coca-Cola Santa. The Coca-Cola Santa, of course, he sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. His elves follow you. And in theory, I don't know anyone whose parents were metal enough to actually do this. I would have loved if someone did, and it wasn't me. But you're supposed to get a lump of coal in the morning instead of presents. And the thing that always interested me about that, which was part of the Krampus myth too, is he was supposed to rake children in some versions over hot coals or deliver hot coals to them. Or make them put hot coals in their mouths because they were wicked liars.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Whips and chains and hot coals. And that was the good option. In the other versions, of course, as Sherry said, he would put you in a sack and literally take you to hell right on the spot for not eating your Brussels sprouts or whatever. But so all that's left is Santa gives you a lump of coal. And what I always found interesting about that was, I mean, it's kind of the Christmas Carol thing too, is that Christmas is a time of togetherness and happiness and coming in from the cold, unless you're the person we close the door on. And that was Scrooge, and that was the kids who don't get presents, because of course it's not the fact that you get a lump of coal instead of a PlayStation 4 is step one. The fact that everyone sees it happen to you is step two.
Yeah, that's rough.
All your little brothers and sisters and your friends down the street are playing with their stuff, and you're standing there with your lump of coal, and they all know that you've been judged.
Yeah, and it comes from the idea in history is that these communities, it wasn't just like now we all just go into our own little homes and celebrate that way. Whereas back in the day, Christmas was something celebrated by the entire village all together. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're talking about being publicly judged. You were out on display. Everybody saw your shortcomings, and it was a huge deal then. We've lost all sense of shame now, but back in the day when it took a village to raise a child, it was a whole different concept. Mm-hmm.
Right. And it still survives in that little way, and even like the nice jolly mall Santa version that we have today. Which, could maybe just use a Krampus sitting there and you've got I like to picture this. You've got your mall Santa sitting there in his chair with his little elves in his little Santa's village. And 10 feet away, there's a Krampus standing next to a rack or something. And
bring me your children, I lick them.
If you cry on Santa's lap, I'm sending you to the Krampus.
Children cry on any stranger's lap that you put them on, though. That's just a given. I don't know why we subject our children to these things. It's go sit on that strange furry in that lap. What?
Mm-hmm. And we're going to take a picture of you while you're doing this.
That's right. And you're going to be happy about it. And
oh, who is that?
Hello.
Well, I guess we know who the Krampus is going to put on the rack next.
Oh, it's only torture if you don't like that kind of thing, but let me tell you, I am 50 Shades of Christmas right now.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And let's remember that naughty Santas are, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's sometimes very good to be bad. So
very bad.
Different kind of evil Christmas, which actually is a good transition, because I was just about to mention Belsnickel, who I'm not going to try to pronounce that either. But
Belsnickel.
because the Krampus is one of many kind of variations on this dark Santa concept. Lots of Northern European cultures had Santa followed around by lots of different punishers and demons and other people who were there to get the naughty children, including Belsnickel, who would come to the town, come to the Christmas party with a whip and whip the evil children and give candy to the ones who behaved themselves at the Christmas party.
Nice.
And apparently there is a tradition even today that a Belsnickel in certain countries, in Dutch and in some German cultures, will go to children's schools on Christmas parties and have a theatrical whip and crack it around, and the children who don't flinch get candy.
Oh my gosh.
We need to bring that to American schools.
Let's do that.
We really do.
No, then it would be called cultural appropriation. Then we would have everybody up in arms about it. So I don't think it's going to happen.
Damn.
Well,
But let me tell you, as a person who volunteers in an elementary school, there are some kids who need to be
Terrified?
just
Cowed
terrified
into
just a little bit.
Mhm.
Yes.
Could use the Belsnickel. And again, I'm butchering all the languages involved here, but I'm intrigued, and I need to find someone who's fluent in German for this podcast, because every translation I've seen of the name Belsnickel makes it sound like it's basically punching Santa or walloping Santa.
I think that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can hear it at the end there. The snickle is Saint Nick, so it's beating Santa. And I
Santa
found
that beats is probably what it is, because the Germans put their verbs at the very end of everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's very weird. Or no, they put their verbs at the beginning and the nouns at the end.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Mac? Do you have any favorite Christmas demons?
This is all news to me. This is an education I'm getting right here, so I'm taking notes. And this sounds like the kind of deal where, gosh, it was earlier this year that someone advertised that they could be hired to dress as a clown to scare their kid in the just roam around the neighborhood scaring their own kid for a week.
Right. I saw that. Yeah.
Okay, back up. Where does this story come from?
It was from the Midwest. It was like either Nebraska or one of those Midwest states where parents hired a guy to dress as a creepy clown and hang around their neighborhood to scare their own kid.
And then at the birthday celebration, the clown would show up and smash a cake in the kid's face. It was for teenagers more than actual little kids. It was meant for
No, but I'm saying it
teenagers.
should be for little kids.
Yeah.
Again, I'm kind of with Mac on this one. There are some kids who could use a pie in the face, for sure.
Get a cake in the face.
I'm
Cake in
pretty
the
sure I was one of those kids, so I can't disagree with you. But yeah, I guess that's part of the Christmas tradition and part of the Krampus. Oh God, I'm not even going to try that again. A part of the Krampus tradition is putting the fear of God into kids and putting the fear of being excluded and called out into kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they're good, welcoming them into the fire and the feast and everything else. It's very primal. It's very old world, old gods kind of thing. And it's kind of funny to see the ways it kind of adapted to the Christian tradition, which of course we've also got the famous Black Peter still in the Dutch St. Nicholas tradition.
So bad.
Right.
Terrible.
Which was another one of these kind of funnier but still punishment characters. He was obviously a Krampus at first. And now he's a parade of guys who dress in blackface and dance around at Dutch Christmas parties.
Well, he was kind of the assistant to the Belsnickel or Krampus character.
Yeah, kind of he could be used as an evil elf, basically.
Really, yeah.
It's a version of the elves that instead of making the toys, he comes with Santa to punish the children.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. And
it's nice to know there's always work out there for Warwick Davis.
Now that would be a good way to bring all of this together, wouldn't it? Evil leprechauns at Christmas.
Yes.
Modeled on, of course, as Max said, the Warwick Davis monster leprechaun from the Leprechaun movies. I would not. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's St. Patrick's Day, but I think on St. Patrick's Day, almost everyone deserves to be punished, so there wouldn't be enough Wouldn't be enough leprechauns in the world.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah, because a high blood alcohol level doesn't make you Irish.
Mm-hmm.
No. I think you're Irish. Really, it just makes you look foolish and puking on the side of the road. Or punching a police horse in the face like they do in Savannah, apparently.
Oh my god!
That happened one year. I
Aw.
always love reading the newspaper the day after St. Patty's Day in Savannah because something ridiculous happens. And that year, somebody punched a police horse in the face, which is actually assaulting an officer. So he got into some good trouble.
Was the perpetrator's name Mongo?
I wish it had been. I really do, because that's the first thing I thought of when I saw that. I was like, oh, it's Blazing Saddles.
He's arraigned before the judge, and the judge says, "How do you plead?" "Mongo only pawn in game of life."
Exactly.
So, speaking of pawns in the game of life and pawns in the game of Christmas, it's time we got back to it. Michael Dougherty's Krampus, which premiered this year. And Sherry, you said you loved it. Why did you love it?
Well, like I said, it was so dark and twisted. I mean, there was, obviously the nice heavy dosage of comedy, which you can't avoid when you have this particular cast together. But at the same time, it was pretty much a free range kind of horror film in that the children were the ones that were going. I mean, it didn't matter. It was usually in these films, children are kind of spared the worst of it. In this one, the children, and you don't enjoy. That's the thing. Like, you find, at least what I found with a lot of horror films is I really, people die. It happens, but it's usually adults who die. It's the adult. And yet in this one, it doesn't matter how much of an asshole the kid is. You have that automatic reaction, gut reaction. I'm not a children kind of person, but I got this protective feeling inside of me when I saw these kids getting knocked off. And I was, and I was like, that's pretty amazing that a film can kind of get that reaction out of me. And it's not focused on like the family pet that gets killed. It's actually children.
Yeah, we're way beyond our killing the dog conversation with this film.
Oh yeah. This is like everybody's getting it. And I love that, at the end, I don't want to do too many spoilers, but I have to, because this is kind of what made the movie for me, when the final character makes that big gesture.
Yeah, I'll just interject here and say we're a very spoilery show. So if you're listening to this and you have not seen Krampus, you might want to
listen to this part.
Right. But go see it. We'll get to it. But I think both Sherry and I recommend it. And that goes for both of you too, Mac and Lindsay. Go see it.
Absolutely. Go see it. I don't think your enjoyment will be ruined by what I give away here. Mm-hmm. I think you'll enjoy it even more because you know it's coming. And you're like, oh, dude, sucks to be you.
So, Sherry, go ahead.
Okay, so, in these Christmas movies, even the horror ones, that final person makes that big gesture, take me, not them, and the bad guy kind of concedes or something changes that will save the day. Ain't happened in this one. The kid makes that final grand gesture, and he gets laughed at and tossed into a pit of fire. So, that is how you end out the movie. And there is another ending that kind of completes it all around, which just icing on that cake for me. And I was just so happy to see a demonic creature that was portrayed as being actually really demonic. Like, he'll sit there and he just laughs in a child's face and throws him into a fiery pit. Sorry. And he is actually really evil, and there's no sugarcoating it. There's no kind of saying, oh, well, the kid has finally realized the true meaning of nope. True meaning of Christmas don't mean squat once you make your mistake in this movie. Mm-hmm. So when you do something wrong, you pay the price, which is the whole idea of Krampus.
Yeah. So. And you pay a really horribly unfair price, which my favorite part of it as well, I think, was also the brutality. And then just to back up a bit, as you said, this looks like a comedy. If you see the trailers, if you see everything, it's got Adam Scott, it's got Allison Tolman, it's got Conchata Ferrell, it's got David Koechner, it's got all of these.
Toni Collette, don't forget Toni Collette. She's awesome.
Toni Collette is awesome, and
she does a great job.
Yeah, you see all these kind of goofy situation comedy actors, and they're playing goofy characters in this family. So we've got two families coming together under one roof. You've got kind of the yuppies, and you've got kind of the rednecks, and you got kind of, stereotypical. It's
like a National Lampoon style Christmas. The way it's hysterical.
Yeah, so you've got this kind of awkward families. They don't like each other very much. They're all feuding and fighting. They're being greedy. They're sniping at each other. They're insulting each other's food. The other kids are insulting the one kid who believes in Santa. And then the kid who believes in Santa loses hope, tears up his letter to Santa, and then hell begins.
Yes. And when the first kill comes, you actually really aren't expecting it. I was not expecting it.
Yeah,
I thought it was going to not happen.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into specifics and spoil that, especially for Mac and Lindsay.
That's what I didn't want to do,
Yeah, but just basically overall, exactly as you said, Sherry, there's this comedy, there's this goofy, and the jokes are pretty good too.
The jokes are very. I was by myself, and there was this young couple behind me, and I'm sitting there laughing my ass off. And I hear the guy kind of going, and the girl going, "It's not funny." I'm like, "It's hysterical." Laugh.
Yeah, and the evil family sniping is very funny. And
it's so passive aggressive, and yet, everybody who has a dysfunctional family, which is pretty much every family in existence, will have experienced this.
Yeah, it's very on the nose, and it's very on point. But so you're thinking it's going to be one of these funny films with we'll get to in the second section, but something like Santa's Sleigh, where you're going to have this cast of doofuses and lousy people, and you're going to laugh as Krampus beats them up. But there's no laughing, just because one, they humanize the characters a little bit. You can kind of see where they're coming from. They all kind of get moments where they're generous and try to work things out. And you can just see it's a functional family. It's not evil people. And then when Krampus comes, it's basically all-out war. There's no, you get this kind of justice, again, it's funny because you committed this kind of sin, or the person who does the worst gets it, but the other ones don't, or the cute kid and the dog survive.
Yeah.
No, he's there to just murder everybody, and not just the family, the entire neighborhood. That's what got me.
Yeah. That was the other thing. Everybody in the vicinity got taken out by this guy.
Yeah. And they kind of wander through their neighbors' houses, and it's kind of like watching Aliens or something, where they just go through and see the wreckage and see the carnage.
I was thinking post-apocalyptic, dystopian future kind of thing. We're in a nuclear meltdown, and these are the remnants of the neighborhoods, from right before the whole world went to pot. And it was really well done.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because the movie also opens with, and you can see this in the trailers, this very funny, actually. This is one of the funniest.
I was dying.
Montage, yeah.
Yes.
You have these kind of Black Friday montages of, shoppers ripping each other apart, and mall guards tasing greedy shoppers, and people fighting in the parking lots over Christmas toys and TVs and things. So it's got this joke about, greed and consumerism and mob mentality, and then, Christmas is commercialized and we all deserve to suffer for it. But that's the only note they make, and the rest of the movie seems to rely on the fact that this one kid stops believing in Santa, so now everybody's gonna die.
Everyone's gonna pay.
Yeah.
So, can I just say I have the biggest grin on my face right now because I am suddenly so excited about this movie. After
you should guys
talk about it. Oh my god, it sounds amazing.
It's great, and also the great thing about it is there's very little gore. I mean, I don't think there's actually any blood.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing, there's maybe a little flash of it, but the rest of the gore is just what you come up with in your head. It's what you don't see.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it too. Is the monster reveals are very good.
Yes, I love the monsters.
Yeah, Mac, if I remember, you're a big fan of Trick or Treat, right?
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, so you can tell Doherty kind of keeps the same pacing in this one, in that, as he did like with the pumpkin-headed kid in that movie, and with the people you eventually discover are werewolves, but it's hinted at and hinted at. The monsters are not over-revealed until the very end, when it's all-out war in this movie, and the monsters look amazing. And what you see of them and what's implied where they are is dragged out and dragged out and dragged out. And then the reveals are huge. So, like Sherry said, there's a lot of implication, and there's a lot of making you think about what horrible things are happening when this character is dragged away, and you don't even see what dragged him away.
Right. Oh, wow.
Which is, again, amazing discipline, because, Sherry, I think you agree with me on this. The monster, the props and the costumes and the design of the monsters is just awesome.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What was your favorite?
What's that?
What was your favorite?
My favorite monster? Oh, you know, I mean, I love the Krampus himself.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually one of those things where they, you know, when they had the final big reveal and what he actually looked like, it wasn't disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really liked what they did with him. They did a really interesting combination of the classic Krampus with a Saint Nicholas. Or a traditional Father Christmas with the cape and the hood and the bells.
And the sack.
And, you know, but he's also dragging chains, and he's covered from head to foot in fur, and he's got the horns and the long tongue that comes out and the goat eyes and all that. So I really liked what they did with him. And just an interesting side note, like what I really liked was actually the animated section. There's an animated section that was really well done.
Yeah, I think
really well done.
Slightly Nightmare Before Christmassy, slightly Coraline-ish, that kind of animation.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, and it's all about, this is when the of course, you know, there's a German grandmother who knows all about the Krampus and knows what it is and can exposit what it is that's killing them. And when she does it, the flashback is all in this kind of really good-looking, dark animation that's in that style.
Mm-hmm.
So
I almost thought it was similar to the Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows animated scene. I don't know if y'all remember that one, or if you saw that with the story of the stone, the cloak, and the elder wand. The three brothers.
Oh, sorry, I didn't.
Oh my God, who are you people?
Yeah, sorry.
Never mind. That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, but back to the Krampus for just a second. I thought that, as you said, Sherry, it's an amazing blend of inspirations where you've got the demon and you've got this. I won't even spoil what the face of the demon looks like, because that's that's a great reveal by itself. But you've got the goat demon, who's also Santa Claus. And I also think there's a little bit of the Ghost of Christmas Future in there because of the cloak.
The skeletal hands.
Skeletal hands, black cloak, weirdly disproportioned, so you can't see. Obviously human-ish, but there's not something natural under that cloak.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of this perfect blend of Christmas horror kind of mashed into one giant monster. But I think, you know, so we don't confuse the audience, we should point out that one of the reasons I asked Sherry her favorite monster is that it's not just that Krampus is going from house to house murdering people. Krampus is leading basically a demonic invasion of the town. And he has an army of minions. And there's several different minions.
So minions, elves. He has an army of elves that are more like the dark elves from Norse mythology. It's interesting. They're like dark elves, but they're also wearing like Mardi Gras masks, or you know, like those. What would you describe those masks as, Mike?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think of. It's not Commedia dell'arte. It's something else. I cannot remember exactly where they come from. But
Venetian style masks, like yeah,
these kind of exaggerated theatrical masks, and I don't think you ever see their faces, so you don't even know what they really look like.
No, and it doesn't matter. They're scarier because you can't see what they look like.
Yeah, totally.
And also, of course, not to spoil too much, but there are demonic toys as well that he gives as presents to all the guilty families.
And cookies. And cookies.
And yes, and the gingerbread men. Yeah, Sherry, how would you describe the gingerbread men in this movie?
They are so cute. Oh my god.
And so lethal.
They're so cute and evil, and I'm just like, oh, I want one of you. Like, you know what? They reminded me a lot of actually the mini Ashes from
from Army of Darkness, right?
Dead, Army of Darkness. They're like the mini Ashes because they all like gang up together to take on the big baddie.
I'm hearing all of this, and the images that are coming to my mind are a mixture of Troll Hunter with, Charles Band's pictures.
I could see some Troll Hunter in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and as far as the tone goes, I think you're pretty close there because that's the amazing thing, and I think that that's the thing that works most about the film is that they blend these two tones together, the comedy and the real legitimate
terror.
No holds barred horror, right? And it kind of, which is hard to do. I think that when we're talking about the gingerbread men, there's about a 10-minute running fight scene between a shotgun wielding David Koechner and 5 gingerbread men.
What?
Yep.
And it's slapstick, it's hilarious, and it's brutal, and it's scary. And
does he actually get the smarts to eat one of them?
he does eat one of them. Yeah. No,
he doesn't. Somebody else does, though.
Right. And actually, though, at the beginning, David Koechner, because this is one of the things, literally the thing, because that's the first thing I thought of when they're going through these ruined houses, because the neighbors get it first. That's the thing. There's no justice.
Oh, I forgot that he did take a bite out of one.
Mm-hmm. And it's one that has, you have these scenes of this battle that took place at the neighbor's house between the neighbor family and the Krampus Legion. And there's one of the remains is a gingerbread man staked to the front of a fridge door by a butcher's knife.
That's right. So it's a corpse.
Mm-hmm.
And David Koechner comes in and just takes the leg off and chomps on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just like, what are you doing? Why are you eating things that you're finding at a scene where something went horribly, horribly wrong? That's just like, that's just the tone of the movie. It's
mm-hmm.
a hard line to follow, to not cross over from, to maintain that balance of the comedy and that horror.
Yeah, and the whole cast is good, but Adam Scott, he's the face of the movie. He's the guy with the most screen time besides the kid who's trying to solve all these problems. His "What the hell is this?" face pretty much carries the second half of the movie.
Or just like, oh God, really? Right. Kind of like,
Adam Scott has like 10 different facial expressions for "what the fuck now."
Yes.
And he uses all of them.
He does, and he does a really good job.
So, yeah, I hope that we've convinced you guys. I mean, it's not perfect. I thought there were some unnecessary scenes. I think that there were maybe a couple monsters too many. It's pretty clear Doherty and his crew and his tech team made all of these great puppets and made all these great props, and he was going to use every damn one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're not going to be going to film school and like marveling at the editing or the pacing. They're not going to put it next to Halloween or anything, but it is just chock full of horror and fun. And I really enjoyed it.
Oh, no, I do plan on seeing it because my go-to critics have all given it positive reviews. So I definitely plan on seeing it. I'll love to see it eventually. It's just really tough now coming out with, like, now we're coming into the winter season and all these big movies are coming out. So I'll try to make time for it.
You'd better.
Yeah, it definitely has the misfortune of being, being meant for a time when, all these huge films are coming out. It's like, it's not going to be able to hold up against all of them.
Mm-hmm. And I got a very strange look from at least two different friends when I said, they were talking about their plans to like take 5 people to go see Star Wars, and they had their tickets 2 months in advance or something. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm kind of like that, but I made sure to get my tickets for Krampus.
The what now?
Let the silence just kind of hang there.
Yes. But we all know what you meant. We're here to support you.
I'm totally behind you, and we are all totally behind you on this, Mike.
At least you went with a movie that you didn't have to worry about being disappointed by.
That's true.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is that for big premieres like that, I actually try to stay out of the way for a few weeks and not, participate in craziness. But yeah, Mac and Lindsay, it's good to hear you're going to see it, because you know what happens if you don't.
This is true.
Mm-hmm. And Lindsay, the hell winter is already over you, so I'd hurry if I were you.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have a very limited amount of time before I'm actually dead. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it to Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
We have nine days left, which, let's talk about the horror of that. And I'm feeling it. I'm not feeling the joy. I'm feeling the stress of it all. So, but one thing I want to go back to that Sherry said a long time ago was that you were talking about the kid in this movie and how he gets it handed to him, and
yes,
things get scary. So there's this movie, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but I will keep it short. So there's this movie called The Children with Rachel Shelley, who you may or may not know from The L Word.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I highly recommend The L Word, everyone. But of course, I'm the resident lesbian, so of course I would. And so the premise is, everybody is together for Christmas, and it's very Christmassy, and of course, do you think this is going to be a love fest, and it's going to be, Christmas. And then I can't remember exactly what happens to what the turning point is, but something happens where the kids kind of start to go a little nuts. And by a little nuts, I mean they completely turn on their parents, and they just start killing everyone.
Oh,
wow.
So it's kind of like The Omen, in that, the kids are making things happen, and you kind of see it happening in slow motion, like, oh, this guy is going to get hit in the face with a shovel, or he's going to, be pushed down a hill on a sled, and, his spinal cord is going to be broken in half because he hit something at the bottom of the hill. It's pretty crazy, and by the end, it's the kind of thing where, because like you were saying, Sherry, usually you're like, oh, the kids, they're kids, so let's save the kids at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
But by the end of this, you're like, yeah, you need to kill this bitch, because he's, he's your kid, yeah, but he's trying to kill you, and it's off the rails. So you need to do what you got to do and forget the fact that he's your kid. So I highly recommend it. It's pretty hardcore.
And that's The Children?
where the kid becomes
The Children.
And
Yeah.
The Children, directed by Tom Shankland.
Yeah.
Shankland. Do you know this movie, Mac?
I actually had to look it up, and it was produced by Sam Raimi's production company, so it's definitely got his stamp on it.
Wait.
And but I was thinking of the 1980s the film called The Children, which is basically the same thing. But I'll definitely check this one out because it sounds interesting.
It's really interesting, and like it kind of goes from 0 to 60, and it's really enjoyable and messed up for that reason.
Nice.
So 4 stars from me, the children.
We have a new addition to our Christmas naughty list.
Yes.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Come join me on the naughty list. It's fun.
Yeah, and talk about a crossover that needs to happen. It sounds like the Krampus really needs to visit that house.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
I mean, these
You might even go, I don't know about this. These kids are a little cool.
these kids are
Recruit them.
crazy.
You might recruit them, yes.
They could kind of band together and become this unstoppable sleigh ride of evil.
Mm-hmm. It's the train of Christmas murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bipolar Express.
Well done. Oh my gosh, I think we could end this section just on that note right there.
Yeah, especially since that's the perfect note to end on, since Krampus is the serious Christmas demon, but there's also been Krampus as a Christmas comedy made by a major production company and made as a horror film. It's riding another wave, of course, of recent demonic Santa comedy horror slapsticky kind of horror movies, and I think we'll get into that in our next section.
Awesome.
Evilly seeks out the naughty, creeping across new fallen snow, cloven hooves walking his footsteps, visiting earth from below, rusty chains dragging behind him, forget about dollies and toys, laughing he'll get you out.